Hey YouTube. It's been a while since I made videos, but I think I'm gonna make one today, just in case there's anybody out there who have considered or were wondering about the 460 Rowland. Um, I my my gun started life as a SIG 1911, just the standard 45. But if you can see, it's been modded, at least with the compensator. I've modded it to have a 460 Rowland barrel. I don't know if the camera can catch that or not, but oh yeah, okay. Yeah, so I basically bought the upgrade kit from Clark Custom Guns because the Rowland website were really busy and their orders were filled out. So that's why I ordered from Clark's. But yeah, so it comes with a match grade barrel, a compensator to whatever color you like, blued or stainless. Just let them know in the order fill out that you want the color for the compensator. So I had a black gun, so I just got the blued and it matched pretty well color wise. Other than that, they gave me a recoil spring, or the spring and then the spring guide that came with the gun. I actually didn't end up using that. I kind of modified my gun with something else. I actually used a EFK Fire Dragon dual action recoil spring with a recoil buffer as well. So basically everything was just done to mitigate the impulse and reduce the slide velocity before it actually impacted the gun. Um, this might be a long video, but I'll try to address it in parts so it can make chronological sense or whatnot. So to start with, when you get your kit, the recoil package, probably you shouldn't be messing with it unless you're comfortable with adjustments, meaning like trying out different springs, like different spring weights, maybe even different brands. And there's a difference between leaf spring and like the flat type, like chrome silicone. But the first thing you should do is probably upgrade your magazine to really get it to the point where it's reliable enough for the higher slide velocity. What I did was I just took the standard SIG mag that came with the gun. I find that the SIG mags work the best. Even like I had like Wilson Combat and different types of like other ones, but the best one that I found to work well with this gun and will actually hold 8 rounds after you modify the spring is the SIG mag. So like again, just get SIG mags; they'll work pretty good. The way you do it was you can't use a 8-round spring with this magazine because essentially what you'll get is you'll get a failure to feed because the slide is going like the slide velocity is too fast, especially if you put like a 25 or like a 20+ pound spring on your slide. It's just the slide's moving forward too fast, and then the round doesn't have enough time to feed, so you'll get a nosedive inside the chamber. So the way to fix that is to basically just get a stronger spring. Now, they don't really make stronger spring per se for like 8-rounders. So what you really need to do is get like a 10-round spring. Yeah, you heard me right. It's a 10-round spring. So what I did is I went on Wolf Spring website. I just bought a 10-pound spring. And basically, you take the 10-pound spring and you just swap it out with the 8-round spring, and you just basically just put it back in, and it'll work like it'll still hold 8 rounds surprisingly, because the way the SIG mag is, the body's long enough so that even when the spring is fully suppressed, it'll actually still hold the 8 rounds in there. Now, how reliable can your magazine become after extended use? I don't know, because I just haven't had the opportunity or the money to put that many rounds down range, because 460 Rowland rounds are like $1 a shot almost. You might be able to get it for cheaper than that if you reload, which I did at one point, and the way I reloaded was kind of let's just say not the safest way to do it. I just picked up regular 45 ACP range brass, and I just doubled my powder charge. And essentially, you get that's essentially what a Rowland is. It's just a double powder charge, 45 ACP. It worked well, and I think I shot overall about 500 rounds worth of Rowland rounds equivalent through the gun. So I mean, the magazine held up for that much, and it's still working. So this is the problem that you'll get into when you start modifying your guns. Is like you have to consider like reliability, which is probably the most important factor, and like how long it, how much time before the gun wears out, because it's gonna wear out a lot faster too. So et cetera, et cetera. But in general, if you're trying to do a proper conversion kit, make sure you understand that you need a stronger magazine spring. You could use a regular, if you don't have a SIG mag, you can use any other mags, but you might only get like a 7-round load instead of 8 rounds. Or like if you have like a Wilson Combat 8-round magazine, and you try to put a 10 round spring in there, you're just gonna get down to 7. Now that's probably a safer option, meaning like you don't compress the spring as far as what like when you try to squeeze into an 8-rounder. But like I said, with this, the way I have it set up, it'll work with a SIG, like with a SIG mag with the 10 round spring on there. So as you can see, this is all 8 rounds in there. So yeah, I mean it'll work. So probably not the most reliable, because you really shouldn't be compressing your spring down to whatever it was like rated for. But hey, this is what I made do with, and this was what worked. I actually called Wilson Combat and asked them for recommendation when modifying the gun, and they recommended stuffing a 10-round mag and just downloading an 8-round magazine body to 7-round. So that was their official recommendation. But I found that the SIG mags, the original SIG mags, actually fit all 8 rounds, even with the 10-pound spring in there. I mean, the 10-round spring. Okay, so having said that, the magazine is number 1. You need to fix that, because otherwise you won't get your gun to feed very well. It will just jam like no other. So once you get that down, your gun will start shooting a lot better. But the slide velocity is still there, so you need to do something about the slide velocity. The best way to deal with that is to basically experiment with the recoil package. So what I did was I read a lot on the internet and researched around a bit, and it seems like the dual action recoil spring is the way to go, because that's what they have on Glocks and like all the high-end guns. So I went with EFK's dual recoil spring, and I asked him to send me, I think it was Frank, yeah. I asked him to send me a small spring that was stronger for like their 400 carbon or something like that. They don't officially make it for the 460 Rowland, but if you ask, he might be willing to mail you something. Yeah, so they have a very strong small internal spring for the recoil. As for the external spring, you can just use like a 20-pounder or whatever, maybe 22 even. Like I'm using a 24-pound spring with like a enhanced internal spring on their dual recoil. Disassembling the gun is extremely tricky. Getting it back and forth, because you kind of need like tools almost just to do it, because number one, the spring is so like harsh. It's hard to pull back, hard to just work on. I'll probably make a full. I probably should have disassembled the gun first and just showed y'all, but because I like to do tabletop reviews, I don't want to have to edit anything afterwards, which means a lot of retakes. But anyway, so yeah, so the recoil spring. I also added I think a frame buffer in there as well, and then it all worked. So this is probably the best you can do to mitigate damage to your frame when you shoot this round. I mean, the power is undeniable. You can't really, like say, oh, is it worth it? Like, is there a round that's better? Like, can you use a 10mm instead? No, this is still more powerful. This is equivalent to a standard factory load 44 Magnum. Not the highest 44 Magnum load, but a standard 44 Magnum load. So it's got a lot of power. It's pushing a 230 ball, like a 230 grain ball at like 1,350 feet per second. Like I buy underwood ammo for my concealed carry, and they have it listed pretty high. For example, like 230 grain, they have it listed going 1,400 feet per second. I find it to be, when I chronographed it, it was more like 1,350, 1,380, something like that. So it's not exactly 1,400, but it's pretty close, and that doesn't really matter anyways. So for the next topic I want to talk about, because this is going to be a long video, I think, is ammunition selection. The spear hollow points, like the one that they sell with the underwood ammo, I don't know how this would hold up under ballistic gel. I mean, I have to test it with a ballistic gel to really figure out, because I don't think these will hold up to the kind of velocity that they were in, because these were designed for 45 ACP velocities, not really the velocity that we have for 1,400 feet per second. Because I think the jacket, from most of the ballistic tests that I saw at this velocity, it started to just basically tear up and break apart. So I don't know how that will hold out, in ballistic gel tests. And really, what you want is penetration. If you want penetration, you'd really need to have a bullet that stays together and intact. So yeah. But most people who do this sort of upgrade, they're not really doing it for home defense, because this is not really a home defense gun at this point. It's too heavy, it's too big, and it's way too much power really for that sort of purpose. You can, I mean, if you want more power, just get a shotgun. Really, it's a better deal. But having said that, this is for self-defense in hunting and probably hiking. Is why I predominantly made this gun. Was like, what if there are bears and whatever in the woods, and something big, like the biggest thing in North America is probably a brown bear. This would be probably just adequate enough to save your life when it comes to it. Because I went hiking in Yellowstone, and this is what I carried. Oh, by the way, they have a open carry law in, I think, Wyoming or Montana. I forgot which state it was, but I think Montana had an open carry law, and you can actually just Constitution carry there for the most part. Having said that, yeah, this was my main carry piece when I was trekking through the woods up in Montana, and there are like bears there, but just be aware that there are rules regarding like gun discharging. Like, you can't discharge your firearm there for whatever reason, and you can only really use it at like a last resort to save your life. You can't just go out and like shoot a bear. Don't do that, you'll get arrested and probably end up in like federal prison or something. But yeah, like, so this is like the last line of defense. Like, as far as bears, you really should just use pepper spray, because pepper spray is probably better for that purpose. It's as a deterrent. But if pepper spray is not an option for whatever reason, and you want like an extra security, then you can always use a gun. But understand that for a bear to die, you have to hit him in the head if you're trying to get an instant kill, which is ideal. But if you can't and you're waiting for it to bleed out, it'll still have a good minute or so fight in it. So I mean, it's gonna maul you for at least a minute before it like gets dead. So either way, just when dealing with bears, just like, avoid like close proximity, and just avoid the bear if you can. But if the bear is like aggressively going towards you, then you need to just scare it away somehow. And if like nothing else works, then I mean, just fire your gun, because that's like better than shooting the bear. But I mean, if the bear is just like charging at you and you have no other option, then just shoot it. So anyway, so bear aside, for bears, I do use a different load. I use the Underwood 255 grain hard cast, and I mean, it's pushing there. So this ammunition had plenty of penetration, so like, you'll get plenty of penetration out of that, because you're having 255 grain with that kind of sectional density and at that velocity. It's going pretty quick. So this was my primary bear carry. And I like to do what I guess like most other people do, is to have the first 3 round hollow points or so, because just in case it's something other than a bear, then you can take it out, and then have the next, like the rest of the rounds, like the full metal jacket or hard cast, because what if you need the penetration. I mean, not to say that there's somebody in the woods trying to go after you, but if that was the case and they're hiding behind cover, you know, maybe that hard cast will get to them. Just saying, I wouldn't recommend this for a car carry. I wouldn't recommend it for home defense, mainly because the recoil and the backblast is tremendous. Like, if you shoot this inside an indoor range, everybody will know. This is like equivalent to shooting your Desert Eagle, like your 44 Magnum, you know, like one of those big revolver cartridge inside like a indoor shooting range. Nobody wants to be next to you, and you're just being a dick at that point. So just be aware, like, this is not something fun to shoot inside either. Not saying like, you know, that's a moot point, because, you know, you're just trying to save your life at that point. But just, you know, you have other options caliber wise when you're, you know, having to handle a indoor threat. Interesting though, I would like to see someone put a suppressor with this. I want to see just like how it works. I know the suppressor probably can handle it if it's rated for a rifle round, because the pressure that we're dealing with here is like almost 40,000 psi for the chamber. So basically this is equivalent to a 9mm plus P plus, which I think I'm going to hark on, by the way, because it's not really fair to say a 9mm is like all that great when you have like plus P plus rounds for 9mm. Basically just an overpressured 9mm round. This is a 45 that's overpressured. So this is more equivalent to the plus P plus version. If you want to call a plus P plus 9mm, like pushing 600, you know, like foot-pounds of energy, this is a true plus P plus 45 ACP. This is like 1,000 foot-pounds of energy. This is almost what a rifle cartridge can do, like a 5.45 or like a weaker power 223 rifle round. You know, so this is a true plus P plus 45 ACP round. So if you're pushing 1,000 foot-pounds of energy, you can just blow the water out of most handgun calibers. Like most of the semi-auto calibers, like up to like, you know, 357 SIG even, they're only pushing like 700 foot-pounds. But when you get up to 1,000, it's the wound ballistic just changes like pretty like you know, massively. So you will get a bigger permanent wound cavity with these, and as well as a temporary stretch cavity as well. So I mean, these will probably put most things down in one hit. Just saying. So that there is a bonus side to having all of this, because for people who want to have a semi-automatic package that's like ergonomic, like a 1911, but don't want to deal with like the extra like cumbersome of having a Desert Eagle, or like you know, like a you know, 4.54 Casull or whatever, like a giant, you know, revolver. This is a pretty good package to have. Alternatively, you could get the conversion for a Glock, and that's probably the lightest weight package you'll ever get for this style of for this kind of power. But anyways, to wrap things up, make sure you do the recommended magazine enhancement, like I've said. And if you really want to change out the recoil spring to reduce the slide velocity as it's coming back, try out the EFK Fire Dragon dual recoil spring, and then just change out the springs. I think they give you one external spring, but get like a 20+ pound spring on there, and then like an extra enhanced like internal spring with that, and then that will probably be the best thing you can do for your 1911 if you're converting it to a 460. But yeah, thanks.